No government shutdown for now. So just moments ago, Senate House passes a 45-day continuing resolution. Let's unpack this. So here's what's going on. There are still issues around funding Ukraine, providing additional funding to tighten borders, definitely the southern borders. So those haven't gone away. All this is a Band-Aid on a big old wound. So yes, we have 45 more days. But that's going to be like that. So while it's a relief, so the funding that was passed only provides funding for 45 days. So we're going to go through all of this again because it's simply a continuing resolution. You know what this is similar to? If you've ever taken out like a credit card and maybe your limit was, let's say, $5,000 and you were at $5,000, maybe 5,001. So you contact the credit card company and you're like, hey, MasterCard, Visa, can you raise the limit? And they're like, okay, well, we'll give you a temporary increase. We'll give you like $500, but that $500 feels like 5 million. That's very similar to a continuing resolution where they're like, hey, you can have money for 45 days and then we gotta do this again. So like with the credit card, you get that additional 500 and more than likely you're gonna spend it like that and then you're right back where you started. So the positives are, for those of you who you were awarded a contract that uses FY24 funds, you're waiting to hear back from Unison, you are like, hey, I'm applying for woman-owned, 8A, something of that sort. This is all good news because it will be business as usual, especially since the 8A application just reopened. The drawback is agencies are gonna be a little more tight with what they're spending money on because they have a 45-day, it's gonna happen again, it's an election year. So here's what I highly suggest you do. If you have a contract in which it involves FY24 money, talk to the agency. Chances are we're gonna go through this again in 45 days. What do you think is gonna happen? Will I receive a stop work notice? Will this position or this work be deemed essential? Ask them these questions. Call and email. You want this in writing. This is business. We have contracts with the government. You may have a purchase order with the government. You may have some special form with the government. Either way, this is business. So you want to cover your behind. Is it bad if the government shut down? Let me share what happened. In 2013, we won our very first $4 million sole source. So at that time, you could get a sole source for $4 million. Right now it's 4.5. And I anticipate it's going to go up to 8 million. And we received it. I was super excited. And then like 2 days later, the government shut down. So that contract consisted of 2014 funds. So the government shut down. They didn't have a budget for 2014, so we couldn't start the work. So the people who were on that contract, they didn't get any money and they were furloughed. So it's bad because you as a business owner, you have to furlough team members. Us as taxpayers, you may not be able to go to a national park because it's shut down. If you have questions for IRS or Social Security, you may not get them answered because employees are furloughed because of the government shutdown. And if you use part of your funds, which happens in business, to also fund other parts of your business, fund your salary, fund your HR, fund your finance, fund maybe a project manager, then how are you going to pay all these people if you don't have any contracts that you can bill? It's very similar to, I ordered 20,000 pens. So I'm excited. I have my 20,000 pens and this inventory is sitting in some warehouse. And then I never sell the pens, but I was anticipating selling these pens so I can use the money from selling the pens to further fund my business, funding an admin, funding HR, funding finance. But if I never sell the pens, then I don't have a business and chances are I may go out of business because cash flow is one of the top reasons companies go out of business. So it's very similar to the government. If I'm unable to invoice because my work has been stopped, whether it's for concrete slab or HVAC or staffing, then I don't have any revenue coming in. It's similar to having 20,000 pens just hanging out in a warehouse. So that's why it can be bad. And then also it affects people and their family. So if somebody's job working for the federal government, but they're not paid, they're not working, they're not paid. So what if the shutdown lasted over 30 days during the previous administration? That would go past somebody's paycheck. So then you don't get a paycheck. So it not only impacts us government contractors, it also impacts government employees. And it impacts people who are just taxpayer dollars using government services. So that's why this is really awesome that we have these extra 45 days to take full advantage. Ask the tough questions. Get the agency to know, like, and trust and fall in love with you. Have your team prepared. Have letters ready in case you have to furlough somebody. Find out. If you have a project that's supposed to start in 3 months, ask, okay, so we have this project we're supposed to start in 3 months. What do you suggest that we should do since the continuing resolution is only good for 45 days? Ask these tough questions. You'll see as we go throughout the fiscal year, and once the budget has been approved and agencies receive their money, more and more opportunities are going to be released. In the interim, you're going to see fewer. That's why it's super important to know how to find, bid, and win continuously, consistently. So you have that cash flow coming in instead of, oh, I won, but you can't repeat it. You want to be able to repeat, and repeat. So whether it's first quarter, it's second quarter, it's the government shut down, the government's not shut down, you still have that foundation as far as knowing what it takes to find, bid, and win profitable government contracts. So those of you out there, bid, bid, bid. If you need a cage code, get your cage code on Sam.gov. If you're in the middle of starting a new effort, start away. Just be prepared because we're going to potentially go through this all over again in 45 days. So please, please, please just be aware of this. So now is the time to have your plan. Have a letter that you may need to give to your team, meaning a subcontractor. If you won work that you may deem middleman or subcontract, and you're trying to negotiate some pens or HVAC or painting a floor, please be in contact with these vendors because you want to make sure with your client, hey, if something happens after 45 days, am I still going to deliver these pens? Am I still going to take care of your floor? These are questions you must ask. Goals are key too. Put your goals somewhere that's important to you. I like to put them on my doors here. And then in Miami, I have them in my hallway, but it's super important to me. I have a Post-it note. Y'all, I don't play with my Post-it notes. I put goals on this and then I hang them up because one of the fastest ways to attract what you want is by putting it out there. If you say, oh man, I'm broke and money's tight, government contracting's hard and this world is blah, then that's what you're going to attract. And so what we wanted was the government not to shut down. So I'm really grateful that our elected officials chose to support us small business owners and federal government employees and the American people by not shutting the government down. So we have a 45-day stoppage gap. We have 45 days. So take full advantage. Now is the time to bid, 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 and to really understand what does it take to bid, 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 win, 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 and to be able to repeat it. Because I'll say it enough, it's easy to win a contract. It's so easy to win a contract, but in order to repeat that, a strategy is needed. Definitely have to have a strategy. With that, keep going. We have 45 days before we have to go through this again. And always remember, we can only control what we can control. And at the end of the day, it's ourselves. So we want to make the most and the best out of situations and just be positive. Government is still open. We averted the shutdown. Like, subscribe, follow, all of those things. Please do that. And I love and adore you. Please go to my Facebook group. If you haven't already, please join. Take care. Until next time, everything is possible.